Hello. So I checked Reddit for questions Nigerians ask about climate change, and I saw, does the Nigerian elite not want a clean environment? I think the response to that is layered. To respond, I have to break the issue into structural realities, socio-economic divides, and systemic government failures. Let's talk about what we call the insulation effect. The primary reason our elites tolerate an unkempt or polluted wider environment is because they are financially insulated from its immediate effects and consequences as a result of privatization. Where a country's infrastructure is heavily privatized, response to public failures is always lax. You see this with waste management. The wealthy would bypass municipal failure by hiring private waste contractors. For the informed, they bypass it by calling recycling agencies. For bad roads and flooding, the elites usually drive massive SUVs that are designed to glide over raggedy roads and waterlogged areas. So once again, they are not affected by these issues and as such are not concerned. If the problem is air pollution, they can retreat into their soundproof and air-conditioned vehicles, homes, and offices. They live in a bubble. So what happens outside of their gates, outside of their vehicles, is just an eyesore. They do not know, or perhaps know and do not care, that it is a critical threat to the next person's survival because once again, they are not affected. Another one is that we run a fossil fuel economy. Nigeria's economic architecture relies heavily on oil extraction and an informal network around diesel and fuel. Our grid fails us all the time. At this point, it is typically an abiku, and we largely rely on generator, which we fuel. So the import, the sales, the servicing and fueling of this generator is a multi-billionaire industry controlled by this elite. Wouldn't you pay for your pockets if you were in their shoes? I wouldn't anyway. I care so much about people for that. But then they would. There's also the weak institutional structure. So let's say we have some elites who want a cleaner environment. Our institutions are lagging behind on enforcement. On some days, they will be available. They will be everywhere, working. After that, you're not hear of them for months, only for them to resurrect once again. I don't know who is worse. Is it our institutions or our grid? You let me know in the comments. Then there's also the funding gap, which might have caused this, as well as the way our law operates. It is easy for major corporations to, continue to pay minor fines than reform their operations. Very much affordable for them to do that. And lastly, but most importantly, is that there is a broken window. We have a huge problem on our hands with this diagnosis of mine. The consistent structural neglect have birthed a broken window. This broken window, in fact, is such that citizens believe that since public spaces are poorly managed already, their individual actions do not matter. And as such, we have normalized littering, indiscriminate waste dumping over the years, such that even if there is a structural reform, it will take a while and it will see a lot of netizens suffer the cost. So we must begin to create the reform individually if we want to see a cleaner environment, if we want a cleaner Nigeria, and shift away from this broken window effect. So it is not that the elites want a dirty environment, but they are heavily institutionalized against it. They can buy their way out of it. But for you who is not an elite, the reform begins with you. Let's make our environment clean. Let's then mobilize ourselves to demand for accountability on environmental issues beyond our control. Otherwise, now like this we go day. Sanitation will continue to be a primary design. Do you get? See you in my next video.